Hi, welcome to Potentials, and this is Lígia. Once again, looking forward to another episode with my friend Christine, who we are in a similar group together. And I've been having a lot of my group members on because this is an amazing group. I feel like Christine and I sort of have a lot of commonalities because I feel like we were similarly raised, and then we kind of morphed into what we are now, just in our own spiritual journeys and just being open to new ideas and thoughts. And so I'm really, looking forward to this conversation because I think we're gonna have a lot of interesting things to say. So I'm gonna let you tell a little bit about yourself and what you would like to see in the future. If you could see anything happening in the future that you would love to see, what would that be?
Yeah, that sounds great. And I want to apologize. My dogs like to participate in the background, but my
I
so
can't
Christine.
probably making, so that's
Yeah,
fine.
we love our animals.
Yes.
Yeah, so I yeah, like it was laid up. We had very similar kind of growing up, but the thing that I love the most about it of, what they say there's 7.5 billion people in the world now with all these different paths and yet we still ended up in this little group that there's a handful of us. So it's really just great these synchronicities of life and how they play in. Um I so I did theology as a major when in school growing up, and I did that because I was raised in a very strict like Baptist kind of Christian Baptist. They said non-denominational, but I would kind of put it more towards that sort of on the Baptist realm. And so I was confused why I couldn't be a leader just because I was born a girl. So I decided to study it. That's kind of what happened. And my journey sort of just morphed from there into just learning how to let go and be open to a lot of different things. And to answer your question as to what I would like to see in the world is, man, that's a big one. It's a big one to simplify. If I was
Yeah.
going to simplify it, one of the things that I like to say I want to live by is unconditional love and full autonomy. And the reason why I choose that is unconditional love. We don't really stop to actually define what unconditional means, and it's without conditions. So you choose unconditional love, and that means you just get to live in that space. It's no condition. Whatever happens in front of you, you can still choose love in that space. And the full autonomy is it's almost like respect and accountability because we all have our journeys that we've got to go on and none of us necessarily know what each other's journey is. So if we can learn how to hold ourselves accountable but respect each other's journey, then we can figure out that common thread that we all have to be able to move forward together as society and not compete to be the top, but learn how to cooperate on top.
Yeah.
So that's sort of, I think, my view of how we could get to a space where everyone can learn to love themselves so much that they are able to see that everyone is worth as much love, if that makes sense. And it's not in a narcissistic way. It's not an entitlement way. It's in a everybody's special. And you got to start here to really understand how special everyone is. So yeah, that's sort of what I see.
Yes, wow, I really love that. That's a really great vision, and that's sort of what I see too. Um, is that really love starts with respecting yourself,
Hmm.
and respecting not who you think you are, your identity that you've grown to become attached to as you get older and whatever, but who you really are deep down inside, the being that you are, the spirit, the soul that you are. So
Totally.
yeah, and a lot of people are not really connected to that yet, or don't really understand what that means. So how would you? I know this is another big one. I'm throwing these really, but
No,
how would
go.
you?
I'm ready.
How would you explain that to someone? What that means, and if they're living in, like, say, totally in a material type of a world where they don't really think about anything spiritual, how would you explain that to them?
Oh, oddly enough, I've kind of been in a couple situations where I've had chats similar to this. I was part of a group once where we were required to have one-on-ones with our peers, and it was really nice because you got to know each other. And I'm an extremely empathetic person, so this was a sales job. My one-on-ones ended up becoming deep and meaningful. And what I started to realize is that you mentioned identities earlier when you were chatting, and it's a lot of things that we end up grabbing onto because we want to figure out who we are, right? When we're young, it's a lot of monkey see, monkey do. We want to try to figure out how to fit in society, in our family, how to make friends, all that stuff. So we're trying to figure ourselves out. And as we move towards that, we almost detach, depending on how far we go to fit in, we'll almost detach from our soul. And so the question that I would ask people, and it's an intense question, but I only ask it because I had a similar experience when I was praying once, that hit me really, really hard and gave me a really nice revelation of how to try to view moving forward. And the question is, if you were to lose everything that you know, so something were to happen, a tragedy or something else, you lost everything and you were standing alone. And you're looking around, you don't even recognize the environment around you. Nothing is the same. You probably don't even have clothes on, or you. Who are you? There's nothing around you to define yourself with anymore. Who
Right.
are you? A majority of the people I asked this question to, I think I might have sent them into a little bit of a mental skew, unintentionally, because my intention is to help. Because if you can find your foundation and still say, I will still be me, I would still look around,
Mm.
find a couple pieces of sticks, start myself a fire, I would still be me. I'd figure it out. But that's really hard. Like, if you don't have your things to define against, who are you? And I think, oddly enough, that's where we would have to start. And I think the way you can do it within society, because that's a question that should be the same no matter which culture you're in. And I mean that extremely respectfully for anyone who's listening. And please, any questions or any comments or any challenges, I accept them and receive them. But that who you are, that soul journey that started when you were knit in the womb, whoever that is, before everything started being adding on, what you can do is you can ask yourself why. Um, why do I here's something fun, being a woman. Why do I shave my legs and shave my armpits? Why?
Right. That's good. That's a good one.
Why why did that start? I mean, a lot of times you get to the point where you're like, I actually like having smooth legs, like it's the
Exactly.
point where it's comfortable, right? But
Right.
why did you start it in the beginning? And why is there a conviction?
Mm.
You can get yourself down to those whys, and then you can settle on your reason for that why, but be okay with that being your reason, not a reason to put some to someone else. Like,
Right.
I like shaving my legs. Now everybody else must shave their legs. That's what happened in society. Like,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
And so if we can get to the point where we can be comfortable with everybody answering their own whys, that goes back to that full autonomy and unconditional love,
Right.
answering their own whys, then I think that would help to remove the quote unquote programming that we grew up with, if that makes sense.
Yes, that does. I really like that too. Um, yes, I feel like, you know, you go back to when you were really little. You think about what's your first memory? What is the first thing that you actually remember doing or having happen? that made you think of yourself as who you are? You know, was it somebody saying your name? Was it um, exchange that you had with someone? Not realizing. I mean, I feel like one of my very first memories that I can remember is I must have been a toddler. I was on a blanket on the beach, and nobody was around, and a siren went off, and I didn't. I suddenly realized I was alone. I don't think I knew I was alone before that. The siren went off, and I suddenly realized there was no one around, and I started screaming, but nobody could hear me because the siren was so loud. And that's my first memory.
Wow. It's like the first time you really came into your body. Like it must have been so shocking as a little kid to hear that noise. Like,
Yes.
yeah, that's
And then
amazing.
realizing that there's nobody else around you,
Yeah,
you know? So what does that do? Like, how does that
right?
affect you, right?
Yeah,
So,
I feel
yeah.
like you bring up a really good point too, because I guess we should be careful when diving into memories, and there's a little bit of a trigger warning there because some of us have had things happen in our childhood that we're not necessarily comfortable sharing, with others and anything like that. And if you're going back through your memories and all of that, it's just you can almost think of there's like two conversations being had.
Mm,
There's the child that the memory happened to, and that kid is still as real as you and I today, still in us, still doing things, still giving their input, everything like that. But you also have your adult now that's had that experience of what you've done to keep that child safe. So no matter how much, like if you feel any guilt or shame in your life, going back and looking at a memory, you actually did your child a good because
yeah,
you're here right
right,
now. So you kept that child safe. So now when you go back through those memories, you can have that conversation and you can be the
right.
adult that your child needed at that time. And yeah, it can be tough, but you know what? That's why we have all these awesome services out there. There's so many phone numbers you can call. You got friends, you've got people around that are here to connect. We are a community. Separation is a lie. Anything that causes division, it's making us try to split. You
Absolutely.
actually get someone across the table from you, you will find commonality and people will be there for each other. That's how we're built. We are
Yeah,
built as a network in a community.
I agree with that completely. I don't know how many times the total strangers have just showed up to help me or been there when I needed them. So, and I've always wanted to do the same. So, it's an amazing thing, and humans are amazing beings. I feel like also I'm thinking about, and I know this is kind of controversial uh, uh, opinion or feeling or belief, kind of. I don't know if it's a belief, but that we came here to have the journey that we have, whether it's good or bad.
Mm,
Even if we've had some really bad experiences, we chose that in advance, or we knew in advance we were going to have them as part of our journey. And so, what do you think about that concept?
I love that you've asked this. This is something I've personally been diving in for quite a while. And I agree, it is quite controversial because there's some things that have happened in life that you don't want to be like, oh, someone just chose to do that, and push it off.
Right,
Because that's not what this means at all.
right,
It means that we all have a journey. There's all right, so I know people who have done like social work and like all that. So I know there's the macro, meso, and micro level of layering things. So macro would be similar to like the government, the overall. Meso would be like your community, and then micro would be like your individual family kind of thing of how, it's layered to just kind of get a visual.
right.
Yeah, I totally lost my train of thought. What was your question?
we're we're talking about if that you choose your journey in advance.
Yes. Okay. Yes. All right. So there's the there's the me, so where you have your own individual journey, and that's on this timeline. you're born here, you're gonna die here. We've got this little timeline that we've got. Um, and in that, what we can see and what we can respond to, what we feel, what our emotions react to, everything like that, some of that stuff can be perceived as extremely tragic because we only have this little tiny view of what it is. On the next higher up level, it's kind of like you can see it from a higher level. So our souls kind of have this ascension journey. I believe our souls have this ascension journey where they're getting back up to source. They're trying to get back up to God, to whatever, for your religious belief, that ultimate that's up there. And on that macro level understands the tragedies of the meso level of what happens there. Because there's some tragedies that you look at and you go, I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't get it at all. Why? But then you kind of look and see the things that ended up in place that came in as regulations or came in as just the way that others would treat others because of an incident that something happened. I can't remember who the quote is. I should have looked this one up because I say it a lot actually, but it's something along the lines of, you can judge society by the way they treat the less of them. And I think that right there is where we need to understand that everybody has an individual soul journey and we can't judge those soul journeys. If we can figure out how to get alongside, every single one of us had a red flag where we put our hand up as a child saying, hey, this is a thing that's going on. But because all of us were so stuck, we didn't see it. We missed it. We missed being the community. I personally believe that every single individual who has ever hurt themselves or hurt another person because of the frustration that they felt, if they were caught at the right time to just be shown that unconditional love and given strength to know what full autonomy is, they wouldn't have reached to that point. I don't think we need prisons. I think we need systems that re-educate people and give them a chance. Sometimes people might need to be isolated for the rest of their life, and a lot of times they're okay with that if they understand the consequences of their actions. But you need to have the chance for them to actually get to that point
Right.
to really reflect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that. Yeah. And I feel like most people just haven't, I don't know. Things have changed so much. There are more people on the earth now than there were, more souls on the earth. So it's just a different dynamic. Everything is different because as a result of it. So, um, and why are there so many on the earth right now? I mean,
It's a
stuff
cool
is
time to be
happening.
here. Yeah. No, it
And maybe
really
there needs
is.
to be a lot of souls on the earth right now.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so I find it interesting, and now I'm forgetting what I was going to say, but this happens.
Yeah.
But no, I feel like I was going to ask you a question, but and it was going to lead into Tenet, but I'm just going to say Tenet because I know you love that movie.
Nice.
And I love it too. I just saw it maybe 6 months ago, and I don't like violence, so I had to fast forward through the violent parts
Yeah, it does
because
get a
that's
bit
what I do.
gory. Yeah.
But I loved the concept of it. I loved the idea. So I just kind of wanted to bring it up because I feel like it's such a deep concept that it's something I feel that now we have so many people that could probably understand it. That
Hmm.
maybe that concept 20, 30, 50 years ago might have been harder to explain to a lot of
Agreed.
people. But at this point, maybe more. So can we talk about what that concept is and how
Totally.
to explain it to people?
Totally.
Where do we start?
So my brain went to, I saw you, for those who haven't seen Tenet, if you just
Yeah.
watch a trailer real quick, you're gonna, quick and dirty summary is reverse time. We'll just say that. There's like every action has a cause and effect, but sometimes you can get the effect before the cause is kind of how the premise of the movie is. And if that sounds like a yeah, go ahead, watch it. It's great. Watch it a couple times.
Yes.
But I saw a YouTube video a while back that was kind of describing all the different versions of explaining our time and string theory and all of these different things. And it was really cool because the person did actually, I think they had a string and they had it tied to two like pieces of twig or something, and they were playing with the vibrations of it. But then they were starting to relay the fact that the stream was affected even before I came. Like it's almost like it preempted that it knew I was going to come and do that. So there was already a cause and effect that was in effect because the energies that were around my intention was already pushed out there.
Like a
And
ripple effect, kind of. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so I think that's kind of, I kind of like to explain it like snowflakes, like in the water, when people will say certain words into the water and freeze it, and it makes
Mhm.
different shapes.
Yes. The
Water.
cymatics. Yeah. Right.
And the more beautiful the word, the more beautiful the snowflake. And it's not the word as in like how it comes out of your mouth, it is the intention behind it that makes it beautiful. And so I like to tell people, if you can take that intention, those are just little tiny bits of molecules of water. You have lots of little bits of molecules of water in your system. If you can take that intention and make lots of beautiful snowflakes in your system, then what else can be done? And
Right.
then you talk about the vibrations when you actually take sand and you put it on the plates and you can see them vibrate where it actually forms the different things.
Right.
And how people have used that to layer to make these 3D printers and all of that art and stuff. So you can see how the intention makes the action, which then gets the effect. And what I think is cool about this time now is time is moving faster. So
Yes.
where we're at right now is if anybody listening right now, if you truly have an intention that is like your true heart, like get your ego out of there. Your ego is, okay, I'm going to side note real quick for the ego. And so we'll come back to intention.
Survival. It's survival. Yeah.
Well, here, I had a really cool thing for the ego. This was my little, I've got two Australian cattle dogs. They're working dogs, which means that they got to have a job or else they're going to be naughty. Pardon me, I'm going to cough. Okay. And I was thinking about just the idea of a working dog. Working dogs are amazing, right? But if you do not entertain a working dog because they're so intelligent, they're going to create themselves a job. But if you have a great trained working dog, you just tell the working dog, I'll let you know if something dangerous is coming. And then you and I can work together on that situation. So like a real good working dog, right? If you tell them to sleep in the corner, they're just going to be sleeping in the corner until you call them again, even if someone comes to the house. Now, if someone comes to the house is dangerous and you're like, hey, sick them, they're going to be right there ready for you to go. Now your ego, I see your ego as a working dog. Your ego is there to constantly protect you. That's what it's there for. That's why it's competing. That's why it wants to make sure you're always looking good, feeling good, smelling good. People are checking you out and everything like that. It's always checking and make sure, like your ego is checking in. But
Right.
you got to know that your ego isn't in charge.
Right.
Your ego's like a working dog. You let your ego know that it's all good. I'm good. I feel good about myself today. So when you do those things, like you wake up in the morning and you're
Yeah.
like, today's going to be a great day. I look great. I feel great. I am abundant. I have wealth all around me. Everything I need is right here. You wake up feeling like this. Now, mind you, everyone who's listening, my life is a life where I do this day to day and I'm still working on getting myself out of the flow. So I'm not saying this is a magic cure and then all of a sudden everything's going to be great. This is its intentions. It's you have to build it. It's like building a wall of greatness within you. So
Right.
so if you start with that, then your ego kind of sits on the side and is like, all right, cool. I'll just check out and I'll let you know if someone's being dodgy that you might miss. It's like, okay, yes, we can work together. Or it'll be like, I'll let you know if you forget about that bill that's coming up. I'll just remind you.
Yeah.
So, like, it's like, "Okay, cool, we can work together as a team." That's kinda how I see my ego
In
now. Like,
tandem,
"Where's
yes,
it going?"
yes,
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I think if you get your ego out of the way of your intentions, so, like, you have a really awesome idea, yeah, going back to how time's moving faster right now. If you have a really awesome idea, you're like, I'll give an example. Sadhguru, he is a gentleman over in India who has a campaign called Save Soil, hashtag Save Soil. Go look it up for anyone. It's quite cool. What he's just making sure that we protect our topsoil because it's almost dead, and if we lose our topsoil, then we all go. So but that was something that he thought about. He meditated about. He is the Sadhguru because he is a guru. He does have a school over in India and everything like that. But this was something that he reflected and meditated on for quite a long time. And then he went and did this motorcycle campaign across Europe and Africa and everything. And he got a whole bunch of countries to actually sign on to his protection for his topsoil.
cool.
And so that's what I mean by if you have something where it is from your heart and you can feel this is like when you're a kid and you're like, I'm gonna save all the whales in the ocean, and you're like passionate about that. Like, and then
Yes.
everybody started teasing you, like, forget the people who teased you. Come on, get those little sparks going again. It's still there, and there's lots of us out here who will help fan the flame if you need any help. So that's what I mean, time's moving faster. You've got that thing, you just think about it and you feel it inside you, and just
I
go, "Time."
totally feel I totally feel that, and I sort of went through that myself where I just kind of stood back and watched for a while. I was an observer, I feel
Mhm.
like, just observed life. I didn't really want to do anything anymore. I just wanted to watch what was happening. And I just like my ego just went away and I just
Yeah.
watched and didn't really participate. And every once in a while it was almost like watching kids do the jump rope thing where you had two people,
Oh,
spinning the
yeah,
rope, and I would like look and I'd go, should I jump in now? Maybe now.
totally. I
And so
love that visual, yes.
that's what I felt like now, just now with this podcast, like it hit me like, okay, now I can jump in and I've got something like,
Yes.
and now I feel like I'm jumping the rope and I'm in the rhythm. I'm feeling the rhythm. And so it's like, yes. And there's other kids in here jumping with me, it's like the rope is spinning and it's spinning faster, but
Totally.
I can keep up
Oh,
with it. I can keep,
yeah,
it's fine. So
yeah,
that's the visual that came to me earlier today.
I love that,
And
and
I just thought that's what's happening to
that's
all of us right now.
it really is in all little different ways. We don't we don't see the spider webs that
Yeah.
we have created through our timeline. There's a okay, so grew up Christian, just
Yes.
putting that up. I loved Christian music growing up because I just thought it was so cute and loving, and I just
It was
I just
loving.
love the idea of just praising and worship. I even played on worship band and stuff like that. Like, love it. Still love it. So Ray Boltz was a guy in the 80s. Do you remember Ray Boltz? Yeah. Have you heard, do you know his story
Uh,
about how he
no,
came out?
no, no, I don't know his story.
So Ray
Tell
Boltz was a huge Christian artist in the 80s and 90s. Huge,
Yeah,
beautiful songs that like still make me cry to today.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
he ended up, years later, ended up coming out, and his wife still supported him, still friends, and like he still makes music and everything like that. So very interesting story for a man who would have been so in that spotlight. Again, with going back to your question about soul journeys, it's something when you can sit back and observe and not judge, just to watch how people float through this world and figure things out. Anyways, he had a song that was called Thank You. Now, this song, I still would probably cry if I listened to it. And it just "Thank you for giving to the Lord" is pretty much what it was. And, it's a story of a person who dreamt that they died and went to heaven. And they go and they are greeted at the gates, and a random person comes up and just says, "Hey, I just wanna say thanks. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here." Of course, it's Ray Boltz singing, so it's really beautiful. I'm, like, saying this in, like, a monotone. And, The guy's like, I don't even know you. And you know, you hear 3 different stories about how this guy just did random acts in his life. Like
Mhm.
one was just, there was a missionary that came to the church, so he gave like a couple quarters. Those quarters ended up being what saved like this like group of people that's like in heaven, right? So it's,
Mm.
and I'm not saying this, just again, premise. I don't want to say that they're like, I'm trying to like promote this is the premise of the
Yes.
song. The
Yeah,
beauty of
I
the
agree.
song of how this individual just like was just doing random things, random acts of kindness, like giving a flower to someone on, and that is what changed that person's soul journey to be able to go. I'm starting to cry because I'm getting all emotional. but um but yeah, it's I we don't know the spider webs that we've done. And if we get too distracted on how we should act in society, then we will not see just our journey that we get to have, like ours. Like
Yep.
the coolest thing about this earth is there is a way that there is 7 point whatever billion movies playing all at once where there is a main character. We all get to be a main character in our movie, and we get to be amazing support characters in others.
We're all stars. We're
Exactly.
stars. Literally.
Exactly. And
Yes.
we get to choose the characters we play. That I think that's with your question about the soul journey, why it ends up becoming quite a hard question.
Mm.
And this was something that I had to do with myself, is I had to look around and realize I am exactly where I am because I chose it.
Yeah.
All of the things that happened to me, no matter how bad it was. Now, I want to premise. Okay, hold on. I'm talking about my adulthood. I'm talking about that I got to a point where I was choosing my life by the time I was out of my parents' house, choosing my life. And I looked around and I went, oh my gosh, this is what I've created, because I allowed all of that programming to keep me stunted. And so I had to accept that. I had to build myself up internally, work on boundaries, work on self-love, all of that, and start building that. And that's what I'm working on this year, to start building that up again. Now, what happens to us when we're a child? This is the part that is even harder when it comes to the soul journey thing, because I had some stuff happen to me when I was a kid that was pretty bad. And for some reason, I was a weird kid and I never was angry about it. I chose to forgive quite early on, and it caused more friction to choose to forgive, because then I didn't have the right adults around to talk to help me actually deal with the grief and the emotions of what it was. So it just took a little bit longer. But because of that, I never had the anger come up that a lot of people do.
Right.
And so I was able to kind of look at it more from the soul journey of understanding that I am who I am now. That might have happened when I was a kid, but it actually helped me grow some resilience. It had helped me grow empathy. And we don't need to talk about any acts. We don't need to talk about any of that, because those kind of things is what adds judgment to others. All we
Right.
can do is just say, hey, I grew. I chose to grow. It didn't stunt me. I chose to grow. And so for that, that's kind of like the when you're kind of deciding what kind of soul journey you have before you're in it. I kind of think you have a chat with God and then you kind
Yeah.
of jump in. And so you
Yeah.
kind of know what you're going to be seeing, but then we have a mind wipe so that we actually get to experience it, because we want to know what it feels like. We want to know what things taste like. We got these senses for a reason. We want to really understand that. And the cool thing about now is our senses are starting to open up more, where we can feel and experience more. I mean, we've seen those YouTube videos of people seeing things on planes where they're actually viewing people for who they true in their true forms and whatnot. And I definitely believe that that's the case. I think it's a little bit too much hubris on our humans' part to think that we're the only intelligent life form in the universe,
Yeah.
and whatever the universe is and anything like that. I think that we can be open to a lot more things, and so there's stuff going on. Our senses are expanding. That's what we're here for. And so sometimes there's soul journeys that we might judge, but if we focus on ours, then we
Right.
can figure
Right.
it out as society, as humanity.
I agree. And not and not to take us too off the rails here, but I was just when you were bringing up, I just had this random thought about astral projection and astral travel because I talked to another guest about this, and I was just wondering because you talked about taste and touch. Have you ever done any kind of astral travel? And if you have, were you able to use your senses?
I so I've tried. I've got, man, when it comes to meditation, I've done some CRV. I was able to be successful on that. When it
Good.
was to like getting trying to do a picture, I was probably did about 70% of it. And I was like, it was enough for me to be like, oh my goodness, this is actually, and so
Yeah.
I need to, I haven't continued to practice it. I have dreams that I definitely feel like I'm somewhere else. And when I was a kid, I remember it being so, so, so real that I thought I would wake up with a candy bar in my hand. So
Wow.
I think, I think in saying that if I could, because I believe also the only reason why I am stunted the way I am is because I chose to stunt my imagination because of the stuff that happened to me when I was a kid. So it's like I have to grow it all again. And
Right, right, right.
so if I remember how I was with a kid in my imagination, I know that my dreams were so intense as was I was like somewhere else,
Yeah.
And so I think if I could get that going again, where I actually was able to astral project, I would hope that I could use my senses if it was like my dreams. What about you?
I feel like I'm not, I don't think I've ever astral projected, but I have, and more recently been lucid dreaming, which
Nice.
is, I'm not sure what the difference is, because that's why I was talking to our friend Evan about it because he's
Nice.
astral projects. But my lucid dreams are more where I actually visually see things that are so clear that they're like it's right in front of me.
Yeah.
But I know that I'm dreaming, but I'm aware that I'm dreaming, and I can ask questions. I can telepath with whatever is showing me things, and I can uh like I can also touch my own body while I'm, you know what I mean? Like this is funny. During one of them, I was pressing my third eye because I was like, "Am I dreaming?
Yeah.
I want to sleep. Am I using this?"
Yeah.
But I felt myself doing it. But I was asleep. But I don't know I don't know what I was asleep or dreaming. It was like in that in between
So
state.
I
So it's a
have
lucid dream,
personally
really.
I've personally been around people who have been in that in between state and channeled, and I thought I was having a conversation, full on conversation, and it
Yes.
was it was full on channeling, and then they woke up and they're like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, you were asleep." um, so I believe you. And when I was a kid, again going back to just remembering when I was more in touch with what's around us that we can't with enjoy with the five senses. I had two floaty heads, best I could say. One looked like Jesus, but there was no color. It was just white and blue.
Huh.
But it had the image of like the Jesus long hair and beard, what that whatever. And then the other was a werewolf. They were my friends.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah,
And you
and
actually talk
they
to
would
them.
sit at the end of my bed, and I think they would just help me fall asleep at night. I
Uh,
had just always remember feeling a lot of comfort when they were
yeah.
around. Yeah.
I remember as a child not seeing, but I did have one experience where I saw something, but feeling like something was next to me that was
Mm.
comforting me. But I couldn't see what it was, but I could feel the comfort. I could feel like it was stroking my hair, whatever it was, and it was comforting me and I felt love, like a lot of love come from it, but I didn't know I thought maybe it was an angel, but I don't know what it was.
Awesome.
So, yeah, that was
And I
cool.
just had Jesus hanging out with you too. Just give you a little bit if it was that much love. Because I got a question for you, actually. Because as I've started diving into more of the world out there and what's around us, I've gotten more comfortable with using the phrase energy for a lot of things,
Yeah.
only because it just seems like everything comes back down to energy with the vibrational rate and everything like that, if we were to, get scientific, right? And I heard this cool thing once that the different archangels and these different characters that we all have names for, um, Jesus, Yeshua, uh, Michael, Muhammad, all of these characters, they actually carry an energy with them.
Mhm.
And if we and the reason why we label it a name is because we have to, because we're humans and we just have to label and identify everything. But if we got to the point where we communicated an energy, like I know that sounds kind of crazy and idealistic, but I'm talking like
Right.
if we could get to that point, yeah, then it was like it's almost like that unconditional love you felt could have been like just Jesus, but it was just like that energy, like does that
Right.
make
Right.
sense?
Right. The Jesus energy. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, I didn't know. I just knew it was love.
That's awesome.
I just, yeah, I feel like throughout my entire life, I've always felt love
That's
by
cool.
an unseen force that, or something. I had love for my parents, obviously. I mean, my parents were very loving. So it wasn't like I had a bad childhood that way or anything. Like I had a great childhood that way. But I mean, other things have happened to me in my life that were horrible. But it always balanced out because I always had that love feeling in the background. I always had that
Yeah,
love program running in the background, whatever it was.
I totally recognize that. I
Yeah,
totally recognize that. I feel like I had the same thing. I kind of look back at some of the situation I was in and I was like, how is I still smiling? Like I totally knew that everything was all good.
yeah,
Yeah, the the whole thing where Jesus says be childlike. I like to reflect on that a lot. Because
yes.
I think some people like to take it and just be like, "Yeah, just do whatever I want. It's all good." And then I just ask for forgiveness. Wah! It's like, nah, that's not like if you remember when
Know
you
what
were
that
a kid,
means.
like when you were a kid, it was why like and again, premise, I know not everybody had the same childhood, but I think the idea of what Jesus was trying to get at was your meals were taken care of. You had a place to live. This is the whole idea of what it is that a parent should be taking care of a kid. But the kid still has space to be creative. I mean, with me, I know I was always playing in the backyard trying to like make some little project, talk to the animals, figure out all these things.
Did you ever
But
try to? I'm sorry, I didn't mean.
no, you're
Did you ever
fine.
try to make something like I used to try to use telekinesis and make things move with my mind. Did you
Oh
ever
my
do
goodness, all the time. Yeah.
that? Okay,
I
I'm not.
think I thought I could fly too. I would try to jump off
Me
of really high
too.
things and land. Like I once
Yeah,
jumped off of the roof with like a little plastic bag.
too.
'Cause I was like, it's a parachute.
I did the same thing. That's hilarious. We are soul sisters.
That's so funny. I remember my
We're
mother
definitely soul
was
sisters. We've done the same things.
she said that they had lavender, like I mean lilac that grew on the side of the house, and I was
Yeah.
small enough that I could climb up that and get on the roof. And she said she'd have people over talking to him. Then she'd hear pitter patter pitter, and she'd go, "Excuse me, Christine's on the roof. I have to go get her." So yeah, anyways, so that like obviously I thought I was safe. Why was I up on a roof running
Yeah,
around?
yeah,
Like I think that's what Jesus was trying to get at. You
yeah,
have this idea of things are taken care of. That's why he kind of put it in the whole thing of, the flowers in the field don't worry about stuff, birds in the air don't worry about stuff. They know they're going to be fine. Everything's going to be all right. The time comes when the time comes or whatnot. And trying to get into that flow
yeah,
is really is really the whole thing about being childlike. You still kids like I talk about in my family we talk about Peter Pan a lot. We like the premise of Peter Pan. And some people aren't a big fan of Peter Pan. Peter Pan is kind of a controversial, but hear me out with Peter Pan for a second. And I'm going to go with like the light version of Peter Pan not kidnapping children, but Peter Pan rescuing children who want a life of accountability and responsibility in a fun way. All right. So Peter Pan has a visual of a child. So we've always kind of been like, oh, he's a kid playing around, right?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. How old is Peter Pan? No one knows. That
Yeah.
that kid is old. So he's not a child,
Yeah.
right? He's had
Yeah.
life experience. Also, he's taken other lives. So he knows what that is, and he doesn't do it willy-nilly. He's very controlled about the way he does this. So he is actually an adult. What does he do? He makes sure those boys are taken care of. He makes sure they
Yeah.
have food. He teaches them how to fight and how to believe in themselves, each as individuals, to the point that eventually he can leave Neverland and they can still look after themselves.
Right.
So I think Peter Pan is actually a really good example of being childlike.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the thing with another thing about being childlike is, and I also what Jesus might have meant was that, and the way he taught his disciples, you can do anything. You
Yeah.
and children really believe that they can do anything, and
I love
they haven't gotten distance from that. What they came into the world with was that we really do have abilities, that we really can do whatever we really believe we can do. And so little kids, when you're a kid, you think you can fly because you probably could fly before you came
Yeah.
here, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you kind of you haven't forgotten that yet. So you're trying, and that's what I think I was doing. And
Yeah.
and you think that you can move rocks around, and Jesus said, if you have the faith, you can move mountains, right? If you have faith of a mustard seed, you can move mountains. Well, as a child, I was trying to move little stones around with my
Yeah.
mind,
Right.
and I thought I could do it, and I probably could have before I came here as a
Yeah.
human.
Yep.
So I think it's that you're just, when he said be like a child, believe in yourself, believe that you can do
So
things,
true.
that you have these abilities that you don't remember you have. And
Yeah.
just trying to remember is, I feel like that's what we're doing right now in this period of time where things are moving faster. We're trying to remember what we can do, all of
I
our powers.
agree. I think that's a great
We're
way to
getting
say
our
it.
powers back and
Yeah. It's like we've
reclaiming them.
been, there's some people that talk about that there was like a century stunt. We were stunted for a century. They kind of muted us right around World War II
Or
with
before.
our
Or maybe,
technology and everything like that.
yeah, the
But I feel
1920s.
like all of our minds have kept going. So now it's at a thing where it's all catching up. So all of us, it's almost like we're all having extreme ADHD because we're like, like get it all together because we can feel it and we believe. I mean, I made I said when I went to the Stephen Greer conference,
I
um,
know.
yeah, and they like I got interviewed. They asked why I was there, and I said, well, because I'm tired of not living in Back to the Future.
Yeah.
And I wish I said, where's my hoverboard? Like right there. And but
Oh,
we
the
like,
model wheels,
yeah,
I've been
totally like,
posting those. They're so awesome. All the
yeah,
things
and
we had like 100 years ago that were taken away from us, and we're now starting to get back again because people are
yeah.
reverse engineering what we did 100 years ago.
And some of
So
the patents are able to be released and stuff. Like the sad thing is, it's all there. It's already all there. They have it all. We just haven't put it together because it isn't putting money in the right people's hands. But everybody, just to let you know, my last revelation has been the best thing I can do to vote is to vote with my money.
yeah,
So, mom, pa shops, and all of your friends.
yes,
I know sometimes you got to like. There's the way this world is set up. Like, and this is the thing that's really interesting is it's all about consent, right? But it's almost set up where you have to give your consent. So just be careful what you give your consent to. Every time you hit that, I agree. Oh, watch the first episode of Black Mirror, latest season. It's not
ooh,
it's not gruesome or anything like the other ones, but it's thought provoking because it's kind of
sounds
the
great.
idea of what are you giving consent to and do you realize what that potentially could mean down the line. Um
Potential.
yeah.
I like that word.
Yeah.
No, it's
Yeah,
true.
there's a lot of leeway.
There's a
There's a
lot
lot
of ways
of
that can go, that word. So,
yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
you
Yes,
really have to think about the potential of everything.
yeah.
So, yeah, that's true.
Voting with your
So,
money is kind of the
yes,
best you can do.
absolutely. That's great.
And I
Well,
don't mean by giving to campaigns. I'm not saying
I,
that. I'm saying buy at a local grocery store versus a big
yes,
chain market if you are able to. I know
And-
sometimes you're not set up that way, but if you are,
right.
and even if you are in the big chain, you can see where they find, sometimes they'll hold local people, you know?
Yeah, right. And there are usually local stores around. There's still, thank God. They haven't all been decimated with dues yet. So, um,
Yeah, I
no,
just moved to a place that I got a meat factory just down the road. I'm excited to go in there and check out what
ooh,
they have. Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, I mean, that's what I do. I try to find the local farmers markets, stuff like that. Of course, I live in Florida where you can go all year round.
Hmm.
Um, so it's awesome. But uh, yeah, I just try to find local stores. This little, what I'm wearing here, I should like, I don't know if you can see it. They're silk
Oh, that's
pants
cool.
and they have drawstrings. They're pure silk. The lady who owns the store buys these clothes from women in indigenous women in other countries that make them, and she buys them in advance, so they're
Cool.
already paid. So all you're doing is paying her for buying it off of
I
them.
love that setup. See how
So I love
beautiful this world can operate in? Like, yeah. We
yes,
can
yeah,
we can take over the internet and use it for our good. That's
yes,
awesome.
for the greater good. That's my favorite thing.
Yep.
So I really appreciate you coming on and talking to me.
Oh, this has been great. Thank you.
It's a great conversation. I knew it would be.
Yeah,
So I really want to have you back on again because I think there's so much more to say. We could come up with a lot of other
totally.
things to talk
You
about
just
too.
let me know. Yeah, I think this we could have a few more big ones. And if there's anyone out there who has a question they would like us to
Yes.
check out, that would be
Um,
cool
just
too.
let me know what you want me to put in the description if people want to reach out to you in any way. I can put that in there so they know how to reach
Oh
you.
yeah, that's a great point. I haven't really jumped in on my social. So let's see, I need to figure that out. I will send that to you, but
You can
honestly,
send it to me and I'll put it in there. And yeah,
you can
we'll
put
we'll
my
figure
full
that out
name,
after.
Christine Sansotta, and I think if you Google me, you'll find my
Mhm.
Facebook and stuff if
Christine
anybody wants to
Sansotta.
get in contact till I can figure out something else.
Sansotta.
There we go. That's it.
I got it. Awesome. Okay, great. Well, again, thanks again for coming on to Potentials, and I appreciate all of your thoughts and everything that you shared with me is just brilliant
Same
and
thing.
exciting to talk to somebody else with a like mind and like
Totally.
soul from my soul group.
Yeah,
I just
totally.
yes, my soul sister. So it's awesome.
Very cool.
Thank you, and
All
we'll see
right.
you next time. Ciao for
Yep.
now.
Sounds good. Okay. Bye.
Bye.